You know, I have to say, man, the only thing I don't really like about the new alignment the last 2 or 3 times they've done it is that it makes districts with so few teams that you wait until October, you're not even playing district games yet. I mean, Port Isabel, when are they going to get started in district, right? Those teams with 5 districts. Well, we do have 2 districts that are beginning. Let's start with 16-3A. Santa Rosa at Lyford. Lyford got a big win. Now they're 1-5. Santa Rosa 3-2. This is a springboard, man. You don't want to lose this. You want to win and go into a tough field.
Yeah, and Lyford didn't win decisively.
It was a crazy game, man. They were down, they were up, and they were down, and Hidalgo threw this long pass. Eliud Castillo again. That guy's a playmaker.
Yeah, and 1-5, for a Lyford team, doesn't really
again, right?
Really
it's kind of like.
But they're going to go against the Santa Rosa team that's 3-2. A very tough team.
Playing better.
Yeah, they're playing better, and I like Santa Rosa in this one because I just don't see them using Jaden Taylor very efficiently in
Well, he had 110.
Yeah,
that's the best game he's had to date. I mean, he's still pretty brand new to the program. He not even know where the locker room is.
Offense. I mean, if anybody knows, Jaime Infante's offense is
boom, 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 all the way back into 05.
And I love it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to play that.
But he's not a perfect fit for that.
Yeah, he's not because he's not a draw. He's not. I'm gonna run a draw out of this.
Right. He's a blast. He's a power blast off tackle. Well, you know what? 110 is a good sign. Santa Rosa defense. Old Wally Olivares, the guy that we like to talk about. He's a 2-way star. Let's see what happens there. The district there is good, but the district in 16-2A with La Villa and Santa Maria, look at this number. What's the overall record of the teams in this district?
22-8.
Right. And so, you're looking at London and 5-0, that little Corpus. Remember I told you they're not no good. They didn't play last year. They beaten everybody. Yeah. It shows you what I know. The guru. 3 Rivers is 5-0, and they start with La Villa. La Villa's got to get it together, man.
Yeah, and
3 Rivers. You know where that is?
Yeah. You drive right before you get to.
What comes first, George West or 3 Rivers? George West?
George West.
Yeah, and Fremont before that.
Yeah.
Where the bathroom is outside and it's the worst smelling bathroom ever. You know what I'm talking about. It's terrible.
And the thing is, look, they've had an influx of people coming into those areas, so it's not like they're, La Villa is small.
They should call them the frackers.
Yeah. Look, it's good. I mean, because you drink the water and you taste it too. But having said that, though, look, 3 Rivers is going to be a bigger team.
5-0.
You just know they're going to be bigger.
Right.
La Villa, it hasn't been the La Villa past.
Particularly on defense. Mm-hmm. If you look at the amount of points the Cardinals have given up, that's a lot, man. I mean, I'm not. They usually hung their hat more or less on offense, but I haven't seen them be this porous on defense in a while. They better have a big effort against 3 Rivers because that's a pretty good team. Rivietta's 4-1. The Seahawks out of nowhere, I thought they were horrible, and they're 4-1. And of course, Ben Bolt. So you can't sleep on that district. All these teams are good. So you look at Santa Maria at 3-2. They got a win last week, 42-0 over Lasada. They've got to come ready to play, man, because all these teams, the only one right now with a bad record is La Villa, the team that's been dominant for years. Yeah. So that's a wild district. I can't figure out what's going to happen. But we're going to find out this week.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if La Villa can just, look, you got to put points up and just minimize the turnovers, minimize the points that you give up. Well,
they haven't played their best football yet, so maybe they'll do it this week. And maybe 3 Rivers is a paper tiger. I'm not ready to concede that game to the fracking machine at 3 Rivers. we shall see. Non-district, like I said, there's some teams that won't play district until next year. Gruya, La Feria. Looks like a mismatch based on what we've seen, but sooner or later, Gruya is going to get one. And La Feria better look out because that's a very determined team. I mean, when you have O in front of your record, that ain't no good. And they want to change that.
Yeah, and, Feria is playing well.
Yeah, they're solid, man. They got the weapons. They got a pretty good quarterback.
It's Galpin, right? Yeah,
yeah, not Gilpin, but Galpin. I always mess that one up. Yeah. Hidalgo at Zapata. Now this is tough because Hidalgo did lose that game in overtime, 25-19 to Lyford. Now they play a Zapata team that took out Hebronville and gave them a whooping, 35-6. That's a good Hebronville team they beat. This is a good Zapata team.
Yeah, and Zapata, I mean, look, you travel 2.5 hours, or was it 2.5 hours from here?
Yeah, you got to wake them up. Hey, we're going to play now.
But you get over there, I mean, they can run the ball over there. I mean, they can put the ball, they can grind it out.
Playing good football this year.
And Hidalgo had a tough loss against overtime to Lyford. So you wonder what kind of mentality they're going to come over there with.
Well, I'll tell you what, Zapata is also a place where you can get some big deer, if you're interested. Of course, it ain't there yet, but just
he's talking about deer.
Hide that under your head. Yeah, D-E-E-R. D-E-E-R. Yeah, exactly. PI at Progresso. I remember when these two teams were in 32-3A way back when, and Port Isabel used to wear them out. And they beat them like 84-6 one year. Hopefully that won't happen again if you're Progresso. It's going to be tough though, man, because PI is clicking on all cylinders, aren't they?
Yeah, I think last year when we saw them in the playoffs, we thought, okay, you can't get much better than Jacquia, Montelongo, all those guys that they had,
But they got fill-ins now.
Yeah.
The replacements have done a good job. Who is George Oseguera? That guy's had a good season so far, junior. I mean, in other words, some teams, when you lose a good crop, but at Port Isabel, as it appears, of course, we're still waiting on the pumpkin patch, those guys have come on strong, man, including that running back, De Los Santos, who goes 90 yards every other time. Give me a break.
I know. Weren't we looking a couple years ago about how Monty was his contract?
Right.
First of all, lock him up for like another 10 years.
I know, right? Because him and those kids is a good combination. It has been for years.
And you have to remember, those kids, they're tough. I mean, some of them are shrimpers and stuff like that.
That's right. They're outside more than most kids. The kids on the island have outside jobs. They're in the sun. They're kind of that raw bone, almost a farm boy strength, but they're not on a farm. Yeah. Because you can't grow nothing down there except oysters.
No, I'm impressed. I mean, because that team, I don't know if anybody thought they were going to be as good as they were.
I didn't. I'm going to be the first one to say I thought they'd struggle. Now, they still got to play Rio Hondo, Raymondville, and Orange Grove, and that's a good district right there. Speaking of which, Orange Grove at Raymondville, okay? So Orange Grove lost to Rockport Fulton. They're not undefeated anymore. Raymondville, they played pretty well against Sinton, didn't they?
Yeah.
I can't decide whether it was 20-13 or 20-7. I've seen conflicting scores. I do know that Raymondville lost, but they couldn't have gotten blown out. That's a pretty reasonable result.
Yeah. And it's a Raymondville team that, I think we don't know how to gauge them yet. I mean, this is one of those games right here where, we're gonna be able to see how good they are right now.
I would say that part of the gauge is that they did well against Sinton, but if they play well or even beat Orange Grove, then we're looking at a drastically different thing at the top of the heap. Rio Hondo, West Oso, quite frankly, West Oso, I think it's the Bears. One of the great basketball teams of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They're not much in football, 1-4. So Rio Hondo should keep it going there, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. And then, like I said, Rio Hondo, Raymondville, Port Isabel, Orange Grove, that's going to be fun. That's going to be some good football games down the road. Now, St. Joe 4-1. The San Antonio Christian team they play is 3-2. But if you look at my notes here, that San Antonio Christian team has played 5 winning teams. The only teams they lost to, Blanco and well, they call it Blanco up there. We would call it Blanco. They're in the top 10 in 3A. So, I mean, that's a very good team. And the other team they lost to was who? Where's my Holy Cross, who was always one of the best teams in the district. This is a great game for St. Joe because that's a good team. If they can beat them, they're going to be ready for the Holy Crosses of the universe.
Yeah.
We will find out of the universe. All right, now, let's stay with it here, Jake, because this is the end of the road. What I want to do is turn to our overtime segment, not about running backs this week. We're going to return to talking about the kid and all his greatness and Bradley Stevens as well. Actually, our great idea is if we can see if we can get mics on some of those kids. Bring old Bradley in or go to visit him and ask him what he thinks about the kid, maybe vice versa. We'll go find Mo Hunter and he'll probably tell us that he's the greatest of all times, and he might be right. Anyway, overtime here is sophomores of note. So where's your list? You can see those guys?
Yes.
Read me some names and I'll tell you what I think.
All right, Alex Garcia and Gabe Benavides from Pioneer.
They're both flashy, breakaway type backs. This Alex Garcia, man, he can play anywhere. That guy's played some quarterbacks, some running backs, some receiver. These are the guys that are going to try to make it happen against Vela. And speaking of Vela, I put them back to back here. Who did I get?
Robert Guetta and Ryan Rodriguez.
Okay, both sophomores, because this is sophomores of note. Guerra, 25. You got to watch the video on that kid, because he's another one like Eric Gonzalez. Gets his shoulders square in a hurry, and he's super fast. He's one of the fastest backs in the valley. Ryan Rodriguez is a defensive kid who makes a ton of tackles. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but you just keep hearing his name over and over again, man. That guy is in on a lot of plays. He's the kid that ran that fumble back 90-something yards for a touchdown 3 or 4 weeks ago. No, I really like him a lot. Vela, even though it's an experienced team now, still has some underclassmen that are great, and those are 2 of the best.
All right, McCallum Memorial, you've got Ricky Minor and Joey
The
Delgado.
big kid, Ricky Minor, on the defensive line, and Joey Delgado, 25, who he will hit you and hit you and hit you. Part of that Memorial group that brings back a ton of kids next year. They're playing better now. I like Delgado. Ricky Minor is one of those guys who, Coach Littleton's, he's bringing him along. He's still got a lot to learn, but boy, sometimes when he turns him loose, he makes a lot of plays in a flurry. I like that kid. He's number 70, I think it is. All right. Who else? Ed Couch. They got their stars. They got a lot of young guys, man.
And I know. Look, I know you like I can't even say his name.
Aguinaga?
Aguinaga.
Yeah, dude looks like he's on roller skates.
Japanese.
Yeah, exactly.
So Sanchez and Cardoza, you like?
Cardoza's the kid that made that huge hit against PSG, and whoever he hit is probably still hurting from that. And Elijah Sanchez, that's the big offensive lineman. I write about him in one of the paper stories, and I've been kind of waiting to see who's going to emerge on that line. Armendariz is the guy with the great feet. He's that kid that weighs about 240, but he runs a 4.8, and he's getting recruited. Maricela told me that guy is getting looked at by some colleges. Because, look, if you got a kid weighing 240 in high school that runs a 4.8, he's going to be 265 in about 6 months of eating college food and being in the weight room. He might even redshirt. No, they expect great things from him.
From North, you like Saul Garza.
Yeah, the catcher. He's the baseball catcher. He's a great punter, by the way, and very skilled. He was a quarterback on the lower levels, but also when he gets his chance at linebacker, I've seen him make 10 tackles in a game twice. He's a very aggressive kid, long arms, and he's got good wheels.
We've talked about him already early on the show, but you like Weslaco's Nichols.
Nichols is incredible. Like I said, you don't see too many guys in a football game that stand out for just popping people, especially now since they'll say defenseless player penalty crap, But I mean, this guy goes after it. He hits like the old school guys. I love that kid. And if he gets in the weight room, he's going to be dangerous, man. He absolutely already is. I love number 8. When you go to see Weslaco, you got to look at him. Now, across town to Weslaco East, this Cardoza, Ricky's a sophomore. He made a big interception, I believe, against PSA Memorial. And the other kid, how many freshmen do you see starting the secondary anywhere?
I mean, because you have to be mature.
And make plays.
I mean, you have to be mature.
Right.
In order to be in the secondary on the varsity level, you got to be pretty mature.
J.C. Vargas, he's already made a bunch of plays, man. The dude had a fumble return for a touchdown. He barely even knew where the locker room was, and the next thing you know, in the first varsity game, he's in the end zone with a long return.
Now, you're either going to be an assassin or a really good football player if you have 3 names.
Yeah.
If you include your middle name. John Ray Martinez from
Yeah, I like that kid. I like him a lot. He's kind of short and stocky, but he's made a lot of tackles down there. And the other kid is Omar Silva, number 17. This guy, again, these are sophomores of note. Silva's done a little bit of everything. I think he's got 3 interceptions back there. And I think he's also played some offense, and he's got a kick return game too. Maybe we're looking at another Missile Iracheta. That's one of those guys that we didn't mention off the running back list, or if we did, we should have mentioned him more because that guy was ridiculous.
Yeah.
He could take it and I can't name 2 or 3 kids in the history of the game down there who were faster than him. I really can't. Plus, he was a good kid. Hey, went to the service, you know that? Went to the Air Force. Yeah, that's what I was told. All right.
St. Joe's.
St. Joe. Look, we've talked about our guy Money, Easy Money, but this sophomore, Mario Garcia, has got 400 and something yards rushing, so they find a way to come up with some guys. Remember they had all the guys last year, the Adrians and all those kids, they all graduated? Well, they've replenished that backfield pretty well. I'm interested to see what this kid does against San Antonio Christian, because like I said, it's a battle-tested team. Roma I already told you about. Here's some names. Juan Pena, number 9, he had a pick. Gerardo Gonzalez, 13, one of the few guys on the team with some size, and he brings it, man. He likes to hit. And then Ramon Espinoza is a sophomore running back, 21. He broke a 55-yarder, rushed for 100 against Vela. 15 sophomores. They may make it this year, but I predict they will make it next year, although they don't want to be talking about 2015. Yeah. You know that. Who else?
Hannah.
Go down.
Like Alexis Rangel.
He's huge, man. That guy's a man-child, dude. He wears number 4. He looks like Chris Webber wearing number 4. I mean, he's a huge, tall kid. He got some speed. He's big as a horse. He just needs to learn how to play football, and they're working on it. And they told me that, dude, by the end of the year, man, that guy will be crushing heads like those guys in the longest yard, man. And he's good.
And you like Jaime Gonzalez, too, from him.
I do, and this is the guy that I hadn't heard nothing about. But, man, he apparently had a big game the other night against Harlingen. He was the one that got some sparks. Him and Lucas Olivares came back, and Hannah scored some against Harlingen late, but it just wasn't enough. Like we said, the Cardinals, I may hear the rumblings of a championship season, even though everybody counted them out. Not me, Coach. I did not count you out, so don't be crushing my head.
For economy, he's probably one of the cooler names that we'll see this season. Boxer
Gomez, number 10. That guy's a pretty good-sized kid. I'll tell you what, when they got their shoulder pads off before the game, if you're looking for the best-looking physique and big arms, Boxer Gomez, number 10. And he's starting to make some plays. They got a lot of young kids on the defense. Darren Earhart is another one, 52. He's been in and out of the lineup, but when I seen him play, he made some plays. So they're going to need all they can get this week because Weslaco East is going to be tough. So both of those kids will get a chance to come hit because those guys are going to run the football right at you and around you.
Now, for Mission Vets, you got 2 guys.
I do. Ramon, or is it Roman?
Roman.
Roman, this guy. Roman Gabriel. Roman or Roman De Leon. They've got a couple of De Leons. And Adam Solis, number 4. That guy's another all-purpose guy. I've seen him make some tackles on the video, and he's got some catches. So these are the guys that have to step up, along with Jay. I think it's Jay De Leon, is it? Tovar. I mean, all these guys I mentioned last week. Hugo Cabrera. In other words, you all got to come up to scratch, guys, and have a big game, because with your guy out, it's time to play. And those sophomores, this is a lot of, keep in mind, these are all 10th graders, because 2 weeks ago we told you, well, the sophomores are good, and if it's a down season, it's because everybody's young. This is the cream of the crop. You're looking at almost an all-valley team next year or 2 years from now, if these guys continue to play.
Now, we've got 2 guys left on this list, and they both come from Rocky James's Rio Hondo.
And one of them is related. Little linebacker, not so little, Ethan James. He's a sophomore, and so is this Andy Vasquez kid. I'll tell you, Rio Hondo's interesting. We're going to talk a lot about them down the road. They've got a couple of junior defensive ends that are tough. One of them is Magallanes. They got a big kid in the middle, a senior. I think his name is Mike Lozano. I'll tell you, man, PI better look out, because Raymondville's good, and Rio Hondo's good, and of course Orange Grove is waiting in the pumpkin patch. So next week maybe we'll come back and do juniors of some note, but these were the young kids that are standing out so far. It's not a comprehensive list. I mean, there's some guys, I may even go list part 2 next week. One of the things we like to do on the show is mention as many names as possible, make the mamas happy.
Yeah, and here's one thing you might want to look at from the recruiting side of stuff that we used to do. We used to have recruiting workshops every year.
Right.
If you're on this list, your name should be getting out to coaches now. Now, having said that, don't have your parents, expect the coaches to do all of it.
My son's a great player. Yeah. Okay, ma'am, that's
now,
great.
In the upcoming weeks, I'm going to get out and actually start putting out the information on how to do all your recruiting so you can get to college. Because, look, it's going to come down to grades, ACT score, SAT scores, all that kind of stuff like that. We'll have it on the web, because if your name's on here, you can't wait till next year to get recruited.
Yeah, start now and send a tape and send some notes and tell them that these 2 buffoons put me on a list here. Hey, we want all the kids to be able to go to school, get a free education, or at least walk on and play football, so that when you're 52 years old, you can say, son, back in my day when we ran the single wing, yada, yada, yada.
And I heard it helps with girls. So, but having said that, we'll have all the information on there. One quick note is that Trevor Spates is going to be...
I heard of him.
Yeah, he's junior though, so he's on this list.
No.
But he's going to Arizona this weekend. So he's going to
go see the Grand Canyon?
Yeah.
He'd probably run through the Grand Canyon in about 10 seconds and score a touchdown on the way. All right, what else do we got on the show here? Now, and next week, we'll come back and talk more about the kid and Bradley Stevens and all these cats, because I've added some new categories. We're going to talk about blocking and receiving a little bit. Okay. We're going to talk about durability, coachability. We're going to talk about some other things besides the speed strength thing. In other words, we have so many variables with which to rank these running backs that it may even turn into a math class before it's over. Greg Selber, Jake Berry, our sponsors are the best. I probably won't be wearing this shirt again because it almost looks like a moo-moo, but that's all we had. I can't find them out of the way.
I will be selling pheasant hunting in his
You're pitiful, man, or maybe I'm pitiful. All right, go to the games and have fun, man. It's cool.